All right. Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Honey Podcast. I am Dani, and this is Bibi. And today we are buzzing over a very special guest. Joining us today is Cheri Moon, and she is a singer, songwriter, and actress. And she's just a downright badass lady. So we are super excited to have her on the show today. She's recently released a female pop anthem, Ain't I a Woman? And we love that around here. So we are super excited to have you here chatting with us today. Thank you again for joining us and welcome to the Honey Podcast.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, we are totally excited to talk to you and get a little insight into your work. You've got a lot of cool stuff going on for us. So we're going to get started with just the best question of all. Can you give us a little insight and tell us a bit about your journey into the entertainment industry?
Well, I started, music has always been a part of my life. Even growing up, I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. And so we had a gospel choir within our family. My grandparents had 12 kids. So I have a lot of cousins. So, we were always, as kids, going around to different churches and singing, gospel songs and things like that. So music was already embedded in my DNA at that point. When I moved to New York, I got linked up with the Timbaland and Missy Elliott crew through some random chance, happening. I mean, this story is so crazy because it was just like literally one day I'm on the subway and this girl, it was two girls, they out of the blue just like started talking to me, really cool chicks. And they were just like, oh, hey, what do you do? Are you in the music industry? Do you sing or whatever? And I was like, yeah, I'm a singer, songwriter and stuff. And we chatted. And they were like, oh, you have to meet this girl named Michelle and some other people she was working with. They're doing this pop group and whatever. So I was like, okay, cool. I gave her my number. Literally a week later, I got a message on my phone from Michelle, the girl who she was saying. And we linked up and I auditioned for the group, which at that time they were being considered by Sony. And I had never heard from those girls ever again, which is
Wow.
like, it's so crazy. Talk about people coming into your life for just 1 second or, for a limited time.
Yeah.
That was definitely one of those moments. But yeah, so from that moment was kind of like when I entered the music industry. And because that group, we ended up being signed to the production company of Timbaland and working with Jim Douglas and a lot of producers under him. And that was kind of the moment. And that was a great moment because for me, that time that I was working with them was like school. It was kind of like college because that's kind of where I I owned my craft and, really got deeper into the songwriting, because before I didn't really consider myself a songwriter, but after working with them and being around people like that who are experts, it just, you cannot. Suddenly I went from not writing to like can't sleep at night because I'm having different ideas,
all these thoughts.
Yeah. But it was, that was kind of like the moment for me.
Yeah, that's an incredible crew to be working with. So like you said, I imagine you learned a lot and that is amazing. And it's so cool how, like you said, people just come into your life for those things. And even though they didn't stay long, they really did it for you. So that's awesome.
Yeah, who stops on the subway?
Right? What a random event, but like we love random events around here. That's awesome. Totally cool. So you, like we mentioned in our intro, you have a new single that you have put out, and it's called Ain't I a Woman? And here at the Honey Pop, again, we love powerful women because we are them. And so we just would love to hear a little bit more about your inspiration behind that song.
Well, Ain't I a Woman is kind of full circle for me. And I keep telling the story because it's really important of how I came to this title and this song and the inspiration for writing this song. But when I was in high school, I was given this speech, Ain't I a Woman by Sojourner Truth, as a punishment by one of my high school teachers to learn overnight to then come back and perform in front of the class. So I went home really upset about this. I knew nothing about Sojourner Truth at this moment, nothing about the speech. And so I just really wanted to just learn and say it and get it out of the way, But, you know, my grandmother, mother of 12 kids, very strong woman, big woman, comes in when she hears me saying, you know, just carelessly saying the words to this speech. She comes in and she's like, you know, you can't just say those words like that. You know, do you know what this means? And, you know, so she was really like getting on me about it. And when she raised her arms up and was like, you know, ain't I a woman? I at that moment thought, oh God, okay, this is way more than what I thought. I have to go back and like, you know, so I really started to put some time and real energy and thought behind what I was going to present the next day. So I put on like a cape, I got a cane, and like I put on a whole like woman show, you know, to impress. So I go back and, you know, I perform this in front of the class and my teachers, and I'm thinking, you know, this is going to be great and this is going to be it. She loved it so much, she ended up putting me up to perform in front of the whole school program. Wow. And I'm like, wait, you know.
This is not what I wanted from this.
It's like, I thought I just have to do this once. But it went from there to in front of the school. Then somebody was there, like somebody's mother worked for the city. And then they asked me to do it at some like Memphis in May event downtown. And it just kept going from there. And by the end of the year, I had performed that song, that speech so much that the message was ingrained in me, you know? And so I kept that thought and that feeling throughout my, you know, growing up and becoming a woman and especially becoming a mother. So I've always kind of reverted back to those words when I have, you know, when I'm feeling down or, you know, doubtful or whatever. It actually brings me back to life. And last year during the pandemic, as everybody, you know, had those moments where they just didn't know what was going to happen. And, you know, I went back to those same words and remembering my grandmother and remembering the fights and, you know, just the struggle of just moving forward sometimes can be very hard. So I was inspired to finish the song and put it out. And I just decided that International Women's Day was the mark for the song. And I felt like, you know, there's also so much going on in the world with women making huge and leaps and bounds and accomplishments and achievements that we got to celebrate, you know what I mean? So I felt like, you know, this could be a great anthem to do that for girls and women all around the world, celebrating who they are, how far we've come as women in this world. I mean, it's amazing.
It certainly is. I mean, that message, I think, resonates with every woman in the world, especially in this day and age. So, I mean, I get behind that 100%. I'm with you on that. In the same sense, while we're on this topic, what kind of advice would you give to a woman who is struggling with her identity in this world? What is like a powerful message that you would leave her with?
I would just say, you know, just don't shy away from what you feel your truth is, you know? Like, I think, you know, sometimes it may take us a while to find our truth and really who we are and what makes us tick. But once you find it and you really feel strong about it, I would say stick with it and keep going with it and don't let anybody sway you from that. You know, I mean, I just feel like, you know, we really do have times where we kind of get a sense of who you are, and then you start listening to all these different things, and then you kind of lose your focus and you lose track. You're off track. So I'd say just, you know, stay focused, stay encouraged, stay inspired, find things that actually feed you and feed your soul, and just keep moving forward.
I absolutely love it. Awesome.
Awesome. And also the music video is amazing. It's so inspiring and so powerful. I love it.
Thank you. Well, the video it's crazy for me too, because literally I didn't know what I was going to do with the song. I didn't know what I was going to do video wise. I actually had some ideas of including different women from around the world. I actually wanted more people in the video, but of course, due to COVID and the pandemic, that wasn't going to happen. So when I linked up with, and I knew that I wanted, you know, females working on it with me. So I have a girlfriend of mine who I've been friends with for years in New York, Christina, who does, you know, makeup, and she's now expanding her world into photography and videographer. And I was like, you know what? You may not have a lot of experience, but we can do this. We can do this together. Let's just come up with some ideas. So she jumped on board. And then Sophie de Pigram, who is an amazing documentary film director. She actually travels around the world to show and document women's backgrounds and cultures from all around the world. So I felt like her mission kind of aligned with this mission. So I contacted her, I was just reaching out. I was like, you know what, listen to the song. I really want to put it out. I feel like this is a powerful message that needs to get out and women need to hear it all around the world. What do you think? And I knew there was a chance she was going to say no, because it was such last minute. I had 2 weeks to produce a video and get it out and finish it. So I just knew she was going to email and say, nah, I don't have time or whatever. But when she came back and was like, she did say, I'm in the middle of a project, but after hearing the song, I can't say no. I have to. She's like, if we can figure out how to make it work in a small amount of time. And I was like, yes. Yes.
That is
whatever
perfect.
Your time is, that's what I have. So that was pretty amazing. I love when things align. I feel like when things align, it's meant to happen. And then she brought on another DP, Karina, another girl, and literally we were just like, let's drive out to the desert and let's shoot and let's do this. And we'll just, make these different costumes and we'll just portray different women and different roles and just see what happens. We didn't really have a full on plan, but I just knew that, okay, you know what, just the energy of everybody was the right energy and I should just move with it. So that was, I loved it. It was fantastic.
Just stacked with amazing women. That's awesome.
So lucky.
So I want to talk a little bit about your writing. Can you give us some insight on your writing process? What does it look like for you?
Writing, it depends. Sometimes writing can be easy. I felt, when I look back on this song particularly, I try to think, okay, how did I actually come up with these exact words and this melody and this rhythm? I actually don't remember. It's almost kind of like I was possessed at the time, and it just kind of like happened. And then I'm trying to figure out how did it happen? And I actually don't get a visual in my head. It's weird. Because most of my songs that I write, I can actually go back to when I was writing in the actual process. But this one, I don't know if it was just because I was really so emotional when I was writing this song. And I was really kind of just capturing my images of my grandmother and, that moment when, she was telling me about the speech and everything. And that's so emotional because she's no longer here with me anymore. And she was kind of like my rock, so I think that kind of just took over my mindset when I was writing this song particularly. And I was just like kind of gone. It didn't take me very long to actually write it, where sometimes songs can take weeks or months, you know what I mean, till you actually finish them. But this one was fairly quick. I think I was just in the mode and I was really feeling the emotions behind it. So it just kind of rolled. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, sometimes I have to just change different environments. I have to drive around. I have to do different things to have thoughts come or lyrics come or melodies, So it's interesting.
Yeah, and you've also written for some pretty big names in the industry. So you approach differently to the way you write for yourself and the way you write for others?
No, I think the thought process is a little different. Because if you're writing for somebody else, you kind of want to capture what especially if you have a project in mind. Because sometimes you don't have an exact project. You're still just writing songs and then you submit the songs to artists that are looking for songs and things like that. But if you're brought in on a project for a specific artist and then you have to really capture their vibe and like you have to see what it is they're going for, what their next album is meant to be, or things like that. So then you have to really kind of streamline your train of thought, which sometimes can be more difficult than actually just writing what you feel or right. Just going with it. You know what I mean? Because then it's like, ooh, what do you think they want to say, or what? Especially if you're not in the room with them, which sometimes can happen, but sometimes not, because not all artists are writers, not all singers, I should say, are writers. So If they're not, then most likely they're not going to be in the studio with you or writing with you. They're just going to arrive to sing it once it's been approved. So yeah, I think it just really depends on what the situation is. But for me, the freedom of just writing is better. I like that because it just feels better. It's easier. It flows most of the time. So.
I think that's awesome that you can like find your flow and write. And I don't know why I thought it would have been easier to write for someone else rather than yourself, but that's awesome to hear.
I think putting those emotions in when it's someone else, it's probably definitely difficult.
Yeah, because I mean, you get rejected so much. I mean, you think you have it, and you're like, and they're like, no, that's not really. It could be, and it could be one word, it could be one melody, it could be just the slightest little thing. You just really you don't know what it will be. So it can be frustrating.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah.
But I mean, I definitely like the process. I do like writing, but again, the more freedom I have, the better, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You're also a mother of 2 daughters. How do you balance your personal life and your career?
Whoa. I don't know. Well, they're a little older now, so that helps, but I still feel like it's hard to actually balance. And I'm a Libra too, so balance is very important for me. But I always feel like I don't have enough time. I don't get enough done in a day. I feel like I'm neglecting something, like something's not getting done. So I always kind of have that feeling of like, what did I forget? You know what I mean? So it's really hard actually being an artist or I think working in any industry really, when you have, something that you're full on doing and then you have a family, it's really difficult. But again, I think that's kind of the celebration of this song as well, is because like one of the characters in my video is a mom, because we just because we're mothers, and sometimes we get into this headset of, okay, once you become a woman, you're a mother and this and that, you're supposed to not do too much. You got to like just be with the family. You just and yeah, you have to spend time with your family and things like that, but it doesn't mean that you can't have a career and you can't still go after what it is that you want and what you're striving to do. So and though it may be hard and things may not pan out the way you want it to pan out, you may feel like, okay, well, this is not worth it. But I think in the end it is, because as long as we recognize those small little accomplishments on the way, you know what I mean? And that's what I have to train myself to do, So, but yeah, that's my train of thought when I'm thinking about that, like juggling.
Yeah.
It's like a circus.
Moms are the real life superheroes, honestly. I can say that. And balancing, that's a lot to balance. I don't know if I could do it. I'm not a mom yet, so I can only imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's great when you can make it all work, but yeah, it's a challenge. It's another challenge, isn't it?
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So speaking of raising children and growing up and things like that, you were born and raised in Tennessee. And so that is one of like the biggest music startups in the world. So can you
music
tell
capital.
us? Yeah, exactly. So how was growing up in Tennessee? How did that affect your career? And was there any like negative effects, positive effects, both sides of the spectrum? We'd love to hear.
Yeah, I mean, growing up in Memphis, definitely, like I said, having that music background, not only in gospel, but, soul, and there's a lot of blues and jazz, that you get exposed to. So that was amazing. And, I think the downside of it, when that you want to be an artist at a young age, when you're in a small town or places where you don't have a lot of opportunities, that could actually hinder sometimes, because especially in the music industry, a lot of, people are younger that are breaking, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, if you don't break before you're this at this age, then it's not going to happen, you know?
Right.
So if I feel like, you know, when people or kids in bigger cities, have a, you know, a stronger opportunity of breaking faster, I would say, because they're right there. But I do see a lot of people that are breaking out from because of the new technology and things like that. We can kind of like, you know, speed track that a little bit.
Yeah.
But back then I didn't have any of that. Shoot, if I had freaking social media back then, and like if I had Instagram and all this, I would have been filming myself.
Right.
You couldn't stop me. You know, I was telling somebody the other day, I'm like, if I had all this stuff, they would have been tired of me. I would have just been like all the time, nonstop singing, because that's what we used to do. Like my family, like there's a lot of singers in my family, you know, and somebody plays the trumpet, somebody plays the drums and this and that, you know. So once one person gets started, everybody gets started, you know. So that's kind of what we did. But moving to New York was very hard on my family because when you come from a small town, a small city, they expect you to do, even though they're really musically inclined, their idea is like, well, you've got to go to college and you have to do this and you have to, you know, do all of these things that normal people do. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, that might not be my path. You know what I mean? That might not, even though I did go to college, I left college after about 2.5, 3 years. I went to New York because that was calling me, you know what I mean? And I mean, it was a hard decision. And they didn't like it, you know? So it was really, that was hard on them because they just felt like, God, you're throwing it all away. And, you know, and when you're doing something, especially I'm moving to New York, I don't have any family there. I have, you know, I have a girlfriend who has family there, but I don't know anybody. So I need all the support I can get, you know what I mean? And I think they tried their best, but they also tried to, you know, talk me out of going as well. So it was a struggle. That's a struggle.
Yeah, I know. I'm from Delaware, so I know the small town thing, and getting out of breaking free from that is so hard to do. And I think it's awesome that you had the opportunity to do it. And yeah, it's just incredible. So are you still in New York?
Say that again. Sorry,
Are you still in New York?
No, I live in LA now.
Oh,
I live in LA now. Though I miss New York so much. I miss the city. I love the city. A lot of my friends are still there. But yeah, I live in LA now, and I chose LA because I was in New York. And then when I met my husband in Miami, and then we were just going back and forth, and I just did not want to live in Miami. I like Miami for going there on vacation, but living there, I'm like, okay, no, I'm gonna slit my wrist now if I have to stay here all night. But no, so if I dragged them after I had my first daughter back to New York, thinking, oh, we can live in the city with kids,
right?
Girl, I was quickly surprised at how that changed my mind. The moment I had to pick up a stroller to get in a cab or like down the subway, I was like, oh no. Me, a stroller in the city, it's not happening. So we moved to LA.
So definitely raising a family is not as easy in New York. What about the music industry? Do you think that it's different from New York to LA?
I do. You know, as we know, New York and LA are so different. I mean, I feel like, you know, people in New York are just a bit more open, actually. They're more upfront. It is what it is. You know what I mean? And if you don't like it, then you don't like it.
Right.
You know, but at least you know what you're getting. In LA, you know, things are a little bit more hidden, and, you know, it kind of like is like, you don't really know what you're getting here or there. And like, there's a little bit more flakiness, unfortunately. I'm not saying everybody, but, you know, there tends to be a little bit more. I just felt like I can read people more in New York, whether I liked it or not, you know, but, you know, but the industry, you know, the industry is still strong. But I feel the industry is still strong in both places. I just had so much fun doing what I do in New York, for sure. I definitely do feel like as an independent artist in New York, it's so great, the clubs that you can perform in and you get support. rather than in LA, if you don't have a big name, it's very hard to get that support. But people will come out and see you in New York. And, you know, it's crazy. You would think not. Yeah. But I mean, there's a culture. There is a performing nighttime live culture there for sure. Even for, you know, unknown artists. It's great.
Yeah. I do love New York.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been to LA, but I can say I love New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Are you in New York, or where are you guys based?
I am actually out in Delaware, so I am East Coast. So yeah, nothing important in Delaware, but I am close enough to like New York and things like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's cool.
I live in Mexico City, so
Oh,
yeah.
wow. That's cool.
Yeah, I like it. It's nice.
Yeah, you have good weather right now, right?
Yeah, we have pretty good weather right now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
I was just gonna say I am definitely jealous of Phoebe's weather and all the things she gets to do. It's still cold here, so.
Yeah, but not for long. Maybe another month.
Yes, waiting for that springtime.
Yeah.
I would like to mention, you said about like, if you had social media before, you would have been like posting a lot. And I think that's so important because right now, like everyone can grow so fast. Like on another podcast, we were talking about TikTok and how easy is to grow there. You just post a video and someone will like it. And that also happens on YouTube and Instagram. And I think it's so interesting how you can grow so much using social media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you're doing it enough, definitely. I'm just really I do social media a lot more than actually I want to, but yeah, I mean, it can be fun. I guess it just depends on, you know, how you look at it, really. But yeah, I mean, it is really interesting. And I feel like this generation is so lucky, especially for artists and independent artists, because they have so many tools that they can use to help them. You know, I mean, it's amazing. It's really amazing. I call them the spoiled generation.
I can agree there.
Yeah. But this is great. I love all the different podcasts and, you know, different platforms you can have interviews and host shows and things like that. I mean, I think it's really amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And like you said, I feel like there's so much kids out there like my age that are having the opportunity to show their music, and people hear their music because of social media. And I think it's awesome. And I would agree that we're spoiled.
Yeah, you are. I'm telling you, I'm like, man. I mean, because when I was in New York, I was performing a lot. I mean, I was doing shows all the time, like even like just impromptu shows. Like sometimes you just show up because you know, back then, like places like restaurants like Serafina's and like places like that would have like the coffee shop in Union Square. They'd have DJs spinning, right? So you have DJs spinning, you show up, and you could just be coming from a club, or you're just coming there to grab a bite to eat, and you have this DJ spinning. Sometimes we just go up there and be like, hey, you know, can we like do some vocals while you're spinning, you know, just sing? And they'd be like, yeah, come on, you know. So it was always they were very receptive to that energy of just like being spontaneous. You know, whereas I don't know if they're doing a lot of that nowadays, you know, but I mean, we used to just pop up and go and sing and go to open mics and so on and so forth. And it was just, I mean, just a riot. It was so much fun. So imagine having all of that going on, and then having Instagram and all Facebook and all that stuff, you know, I mean,
recording it all, that would be
crazy.
Like right now, I feel like someone could be like, oh, I'm making a live stream, I'm just going to play my music. And then people from all around the world can join and hear their music.
Yeah. Well,
awesome.
A lot of people were doing that last year. I felt like a lot of people were doing that more last year, right? With the pandemic and stuff, like started streaming from home, and DJs started just like spinning and like forming these little chat rooms, and people can just come in and watch them, you know? Yeah, that's really, I think it's cool. Technology is really cool right now.
It is, yeah. It has made the quarantine less bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look at us now. We're talking, you're in New Mexico, you're in Delaware, I'm in LA. Like, I mean, this is incredible.
It is. I agree. It definitely is cool for what it's done for us during quarantine. Like we've been able to see artists play shows and talk with each other. I mean, of course, granted, we don't wish to be in a quarantine right now, but it is very, very awesome that we get these opportunities.
Yeah. No, I cannot wait till this is over. I'm like, oh my goodness. But
So
well.
you've worked on voiceovers for children's songs. Can you tell us about that?
So I've done voiceovers for commercials and actually sang on jingles. My first jingle was actually with Timberland. It was for a Joe Boxer Kmart commercial. That was pretty funny. The commercial was being shot by Dave Meyers, which was really interesting. And that whole thing was funny because I wasn't originally supposed to be a part of that jingle. And I didn't even know what a jingle was. I mean, in hindsight, I did because, you know, as a kid, you would sing things off the TV, but you didn't know what that was called, you know? But this was my first time ever really kind of realizing what a jingle was. But because I was working with him all the time and the whole crew, whether I was recording or working with other artists in the studio, I would always, and this is when they were working at Manhattan Center in New York, and I would just pass by through the day, even just to see if there was anything I could pop on, you know what I mean? And just one day I just pop up and I see that they're doing like this commercial, trying to get this commercial thing happening. And I'm just sitting there and I used to just sit around sometimes just in between like meetings or appointments or auditions or whatever. But because it was so central, I would just go there and wait or whatever. And sometimes I end up doing either a background vocal here or this or that, you know, it's just more opportunity for me. But yeah, so this one particular day, we were doing the commercial and I remember vividly the guy who was writing the lyrics and stuff for this thing. And they wanted a Missy Elliott type of like gospel, because this is when like Gospel Folks was out. You know, the one with the bus and the girl dancing and stuff from Missy. They wanted that type of vibe. So the guy couldn't really get all the lyrics to fit, and he kept trying to, you know, figure it out and this and that. And Jimmy Douglas, who was the mixer and the engineer there, he was like, Cheri, why don't you like go in the booth and just like try and put some of these things down so you can kind of see what it sounds like. This was before the female vocalist that was supposed to do it was coming. So I was the only one there. So he was like, why don't you just put it down that way they have a reference track, right? So I was like, okay, you know, so I go in, I lay the vocals and we're switching them around and this and that. And so I did it. So I'm like, okay, so then I'm sitting there and then some of the other clients show up and they're ready to do the session. Frank Nitti, who was one of the male vocalists came in and he did his part. And the girl that was supposed to do the part that I did the reference to is late. So what ends up happening? The clients got there before she did and they liked what they heard and they kept my vocal on the commercial. And that was like my first jingle. And you know, I mean, it's so funny because that's one of the things that taught me of like, okay, don't be late because you will miss out. They will switch you out in 2 seconds, you know? But yeah, that was like the start of like me singing jingles because one of my close friends now who I met at that session, she worked for Shy at Day and she introduced me to the jingle houses. And so then I just started singing jingles on different demos and things like that and got a lot of exposure that way. And yeah, it was great. That was a great time because I still wasn't making any money before then. I wasn't making anything. So I was still this like broke artist and like, you know, kind of scrounging around New York, singing on records, trying to get on this and this and this. And, you know, so that actually really helped me a lot financially because then I could breathe a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was such a great experience. And so then the kids stuff I wrote, my kids' music under Snook Nook, I wrote because I had been working on jingles. So I started writing, you know, jingles more, singing on jingles and things like that, working on different campaigns. And so I was in this mode of like making things very poppy or very repetitive so you can remember it, you know? So when I had my daughter, boy, the repeating you have to do of like, trying to teach them little things and this and that. I was just like I was too through. So changing everything into a song for me worked wonders.
Yes.
I mean, literally, from freaking eat your vegetables to brush your teeth to wash your hands to this to that. I had a song for everything. So I was like, you know what, this is the way to go. Like, don't repeat it, because after a while, what happens with the kids? They start singing it because it gets stuck in their head, and then suddenly you don't have to say it anymore. I'm like, okay, this is great. So that's kind of what took me into the kids world, and then I just started writing, not writing only songs about basic hygiene, but then just writing stuff about social awareness and all these different positive affirmations that for me really mean a lot. To teach kids and people, because sometimes people need to be reminded that they need to be nice, right? So, positive affirmations for me is very important. I have to keep telling myself that, and I think a lot of people do. Remind yourself about different things, so, and especially about, yourself. So I think it's really important.
I love that. I love the story about how you got into jingles and all that. It's awesome. And then you're writing these songs for kids. It's awesome. I think everything you do is awesome.
Aw, thank you. Thank you. I just keep going. Just got to keep going. You never know what you're going to come up with. That's how I see it. That's why my thing is like, just don't quit. Keep going. If you're creative, keep creating. If you're this, keep doing that. If you're that, keep doing that. Like, you just never know what's going to come out of what.
Right.
Yeah.
And making songs for kids, I think, is awesome because I am a teacher also. So for you to say that, I'm just like sitting here like, they love songs. Like,
you know what I'm talking about repeating yourself, right?
True. It's so true. They absolutely love it. And they do get stuck in your head too. Like, I've catch myself singing songs from school all the time. So like, what a great way to like get those positive affirmations out to them and things like that. I think that's just such a smart tactic. So totally
turn it all into a musical.
Yeah.
Turn everything into a musical. Everything's a musical. We'll all be okay.
Yep. I'm on board with that.
So
funny.
talking about how awesome you are, you're also an actress. Can you tell us about that?
Well, I've done a few roles. I mean, a lot of the voiceover stuff, I've done a lot of voiceover stuff, but recently I did do a few on camera, on-screen appearances, I should say, small roles. One was with this film called Los Angeles. Is an independent film. It's now on Amazon. And it's a Hollywood movie. It's about a Hollywood story of an actress that goes missing right before she's going to win the Oscar and so on and so forth. So there's like this whole psycho thriller circle that's going around. But I play one of the news reporter that's keeping on following the whole story and trying to figure it out before anybody else does. So that's really cool. And then one that's not out yet that filmed last year and a little bit last year, and then towards the end of 2019 is when we started. And this one is called Passenger C, and this one is with Cassian Elwes, who is a producer for like Dallas Buyers Club and The Hurt Locker and things like that. The Butler. He did The Butler with Oprah and whatever. So, but this story he did is about his own life. It's a true story that happened to him a few years ago on an airplane, where there was this guy on there that was suffering from PTSD and almost took the plane down, basically. And it affected him so much. I'm not going to tell you the full story because then you need to watch it. But but I was the lead flight attendant on the flight he tried to take down. So that was pretty fun because I've seen sets, where, they're filming and things like that. And I always, used to wonder, probably like everybody else, how do they do the scene and how does this work? And especially an airplane, it's like, how do you actually film on an airplane? So we actually went out on a set and it was a real airplane, but the front, there was no, it was cut in half. So, when the cameras are, when the cameras are like, coming in, you see it's actually really surreal, you know.
Yeah.
It's just really crazy how that worked. But I had so much fun doing that because I'd always wanted to, you know, act and do some films and television. And those two roles just gave me a really good start, I would say, because they were really fun. They were small enough, but yet, you know, I had some good lines and had some good moments, which is great. And everybody on set was fantastic, and the producers I got to work with were amazing. And I like both of the stories, you know, and especially this Passenger C too that's coming out is fantastic because it's a true story.
Yeah.
And I have I don't have a huge fear of flying, but you know, I'm always on pins and needles when I'm on a plane. You know what I mean? So actually getting into that character was not very hard for me. I was on pins and needles.
Totally understand that one.
So funny. But yeah, but I'd love to do more roles. I would actually my dream roles would be playing like another musician, another female artist about her life story or something like that, you know, a biopic or, you know, I would love to do something like that. I mean, something with music where I'm singing, or I have an obsession with freaking, don't laugh at me. I have an obsession with Mary Poppins, and I also have an obsession with freaking Carol Burnett and Annie. You know what I mean? Like it's something about the singing and the whole thing. And like
you set me up. I thought I was gonna laugh way harder. That one isn't that bad. I can.
Well, okay, good. Some people go, what?
I was like, she's gonna give us a really crazy thing. But that, I mean, Annie is one of my all-time faves. Like that's such a good one.
It's so good, and I love Carol Burnett in that. It's like so good, so classic.
Yeah. Well, that you've given us a great amount of insight today, and it's been awesome talking to you. But before we let you go, we want to, of course, ask: is there anything else that you can share with us that we can look forward to coming from you in the future?
Well, I do have some more amazing music coming out soon. And I'm working on another video, which I'm excited about. And I have some collaborations that I can't mention, but I have those coming out. And there's a podcast that I'm doing that is kind of about music. It's like a time travel music podcast. That I've been casted in. So I'm excited about that. You know, just more kind of like acting voice stuff, you know, which is fantastic. But I'll be posting all of that stuff on my Instagram at Cheri Moon, and also Facebook and on YouTube. You can find me Cheri. The Cheri Moon is spelled like the cherry, but it's Cheri Moon and then Cheri Moon Music. So yeah, I'll be keeping you guys posted on everything that's going on.
We love to ask that question, even though half the time, most of the people we talk to can't quite tell us all they're working on, but it does give us, our listeners, some really cool stuff to look forward to. So we can't wait to hear more.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me today.
Of course, it's been an awesome time talking to you, and we can't wait to have you back again in the future, of course.
Thank you. You guys are so easy to talk to.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, that's it for today. So we will see you guys next time on the Honey Podcast.
All right.